Okay, welcome back to our mini lecture series, Jump the Gap, Why We All Need a Sustainable Mindset, episode 4. Let's just dive in because this here is a more personal story. So far we looked into all the different global aspects of climate change, sustainability, carbon dioxide, society, economy, environment. And we have this information, we know this all, and still we have the problem that we are not acting fast enough. And this is probably a frustrating element for everyone, but I believe it's always a personal journey. And we are not always driven by facts, but we are driven by stories we hear from other places of the world, from friends or from strangers that make a difference, that resonate with us. And I was reflecting on my own journey as an earth scientist. Where did I start, and how did I come to the place to think about sustainability and ecosystems on the level I'm doing right now. And I want to share this personal story with you very, very briefly, just to show you what a journey to this can be for an individual. Please bear with me. So, I'm an earth scientist for 30 plus years now, and I'm a geologist. So I really, really enjoy what I'm doing. Never looked back to other professions, and I feel like I'm a natural scientist. And this is a good place to be, because as a natural scientist, you have a very, very close relationship with Earth. Yeah? So, as a natural scientist, you can become the scientist Mother Earth needs. And what is more important in the moment, it's a very fulfilling career to have. Yeah? So, being an Earth scientist, in my opinion, is really very relevant, because we are able, as a geologist or as an earth scientist, to converse with Earth. Yeah? If I go out in nature, I can read the landscapes. I can read the history of Earth within the rock record. I can see what processes have shaped the Earth in the past and today. And this gives me a really very strong relationship. Yeah? And discussing about the importance of soil for life, you can literally be an earth scientist, yeah, focusing on this important element for ecological health. So, as a scientist, of course, I'm trained to analyze problems and to find solutions for problems and to understand how elements work together. And science is a big contributor to our understanding how we live on the planet, particularly from earth sciences, but also sciences in parts is really struggling with the complexity of problems we are facing. Yeah, so I really like this table, and I met this table in a book I talk about in a moment, and it excuse me, got me thinking. Yeah, so if you look on the thinking part of the table, and the blue ones, rational, analysis, reductionist, these are all particular elements scientists are working with. If you look on the emergent mind table of thinking, yeah, integrating synthesis is a key element of scientific study. I can relate to very strongly. Yeah. This type of thinking is generating a type of values we are living in. Yeah, so expansion, competition, yeah, quantity, domination are values that are derived from this blue elements. But at this particular point, we see that this is causing a couple of problems, and a little bit sciences in itself is struggling right now, because every science has to be published. Yeah, it has scientific career is based on publications, and we are very proud to uphold the scientific method as a very, very unbiased view on the world, looking on problems. Yeah, scientific progress is being valued. Yeah. So, but what we are doing is we state a problem that we consider is important to study, and we design a research program around this problem. Yeah. So we want to understand what is causing this problem. So we form a hypothesis, that is our idea, what could be the cause of the problem. And then we design experiments or an analytical monitoring program to look in the data to generate this, to keep this in check, to manageable. We have to reduce the problem to its core elements, and we can't look into the different interrelations very closely. Yeah, and then we on our data we base our analysis and we drive a conclusion, and this is scientific progress. And this is how we work. This is ingrained in us. But we are probably at a time in scientific progress where we made all the advances possible in many fields based on this approach, and now we are hitting a buffer, because this deductionist approach is not really covering very important element of life on Earth. And I was made familiar of this for the first time in 1996 when I read a book from Fritjof Capra, The Web of Life. It was a brilliant synthesis of the history of science and what problems they are approaching. And Fritjof Capra and other really prominent physicists in the 1970s, 1980s of the last century really tried really hard to use scientific approaches to understand life. What is the meaning of life, the purpose of life, what is the essence of life, and how can they analyze it? And the very eminent scientists and physicists really struggled to even describe life with the current scientific language. Yeah, that was deductionist, and that was trying to isolate problems, because they have seen if you want to investigate life, everything is connected. You can't look into isolation. And if you look into a large community of elements, it's really difficult to make scientific analysis, because there are so many data to observe, so many relationships to consider. But this is the essence of life. So, and they were saying, okay, if we want to investigate this, if we want to understand this, if we want to solve problems related to this, we need to have a paradigm shift in sciences. We have to go away from our mechanical scientific thinking into something they call an emergent mind. We have to be integrative, intuitive. We have to listen to feelings. Yeah, we have to think holistic. Yeah, we have to think non-linear, because many processes in nature are non-linear, and the values are shifting very dramatically as consequence of this. So. And earth sciences and all other sciences are going dramatically to this paradigm shift in the last 20, 40 years. And it's very rewarding, because suddenly we are opening up a completely different field of sciences, opening us doors to a world we were really difficult to enter previously, or we misinterpreted in quite some kind. Yeah. So coming back to geology, so Capra was phrasing something that he's calling deep ecology. So deep ecology means, if you want to act on this, you have to transform your mindset from mechanical mind to emergent mind to be able to operate on this level. And this is what we need to do as individuals and as societies. And it's a part of the topic of this mini-series, yeah? How to get a sustainable sustainability mindset. Yeah. So the importance of life, we can't shrug away, in particular as a geologist. I know that life is the most powerful geological force on the planet. No other process has transformed the planet so dramatically, so deeply in the last 3 billion years. Not earthquakes, not volcanoes, not meteorite impacts. Life is the biggest geological force, and earth scientists are aware of this. And this has already been phrased by Vladimir Verdansky in the 19th century. And Vladimir Verdansky, he was an Ukrainian mineralogist. He was saying that wherever we are looking as a geological agent, we see life interacting with all different levels of nature and geology. And as a geologist, I told you, I feel I can talk with Earth. I can read her diary. I can understand the landscapes. I see the processes. But as a geologist, I always also a little bit, I don't know, arrogant, blasé, because as a geologist, we consider deep time. So we think about millions of years. So 10,000 years of civilization and history of humans is only a blink of the eye in geologist terms of deep time. And I was always saying, okay, yeah, humanity has a really bad impact right now, but it's only a very short time frame, and we can't really harm the planet. We only harm human society, a global society. So because if we do something very stupid, it will not have a major impact on Earth. And this is why I was always a little bit relaxed, no, not sheltered, absent from the discussion about biodiversity and ecology and sustainability. Yeah, I try to really reduce my impact and conserve energy and everything. But as a geologist, I always saying, okay, Earth will be fine. It's us that are struggling. Until the point where a term was coming up into the geological discussion, and now also in the community, in the global community, a term called Anthropocene. Yeah, there is a fierce discussion right now in the scientific community if we have entered a new geological age. Yeah, currently, since the last ice age, where we have this stable climate, we are in the Holocene. Describing the state of geological activity on the planet for the last 10,000 years. But now there was a discussion coming up where Paul Cruzen, Nobel Prize, who has a Nobel Prize for chemistry, was coming up with a discussion in the scientific journals. Do we are now living in the Anthropocene? So is now humanity is the biggest geological force on Earth. And this idea I found really shocking. Yeah, geological forces are massive, live, earthquakes, plate tectonics, volcanoes. How can our activity on the planet have an impact even bigger than these processes? So this was my first reaction. So let's dive into this, and I want to share a brief video with you by David Attenborough, a short talk excerpt from the World Economic Forum in 2019 that really summarized my feeling in a really clear way, and it's called "The Garden of Eden is No More." Let's see. Video play.
For millennia, on a global scale, nature has been largely predictable and stable. Now, in the space of one human lifetime, indeed, in the space of my lifetime, all that has changed. The Holocene has ended. The Garden of Eden is no more. The only conditions modern humans have ever known so far are changing, and changing fast. It's tempting and understandable to ignore the evidence and carry on as usual, or to be filled with gloom and doom. But there is also a vast potential for what we might do. We need to move beyond guilt or blame and get on with the practical tasks in hand.
Okay, so the Garden of Eden is no more. The human impact on the planet is now bigger than any other geological force. Yeah, so it's human activity, particular human activity of the industrialized nations, that are triggering this change. today, yeah, we are shifting more sediments and aggregates on the Earth's surface by artificial means than any other geological process on Earth, like rivers like the Mississippi, or erosion processes of mountain changes. Yeah, the change in land cover we trigger is so massive that it's faster than any natural process in terms of land function change or extinction. So we are the driving force right now, and I find this idea really, really shocking in a way that it's a wake-up call. Yeah. In some kinds, you don't know that you are responsible for something on a particular level, and you could be excused for not acting. But now we know what we are doing, and so we have all the information. So we need to act. I think, and this is a daunting problem. But the Anthropocene is a problem, or is a state of Earth that has been done by humans, have been done by societies, have been done by civilizations. So whatever has been done by humans, society or civilization can be undone as well. Yeah, it's not any force we don't control. Yeah, so all the issues that we have generated, we know are a big issue. Now we can solve them again. So this gives us agency. Yeah, this gives us a really good way forward. Yeah, just try to fix it. We can it. Yeah. So I find this recognition, or this I find really empowering, because suddenly it's not only all passively coming in our direction. No, we know what can be done, and every individual, every community, every country can do their share. And you can start right now. I find this very, very positive. So, as I stated already, we cannot say humanity is acting on this in the same way. Here you see a projection of the Anthropocene world, so the impact of different countries and continents on life on Earth in a distorted view. This is from World Mapper, a great resource that is rescaling the shape and size of countries related to particular parameters. And this is here the Anthropocene world, where you see what countries that are really being shown distorted and larger as usual have most of the impact on sustainable process in nature. So this is a picture of the Anthropocene world. So with this coming to my mind, I was trying to figure out what would be a way to move forward. How do we do change? How do we change individually? And I came across a couple of YouTube videos that were really mind-changing for me, and was a big stopgap in thinking about these problems, from more general to more focus on individual progress. So, and these are documentaries from John Dealou. He is a journalist and a documentary filmmaker and an ecologist. And John, he has a couple of really mind-blowing documentaries, and I've seen Green Gold first. And in this documentary, he is showing a restoration work in the Loess Plateau in China, done in the earliest in the last years of the 20th century, up to the decades in the 21st century. And I just want to show you the key section of one of the documentaries that really blow my mind.
When I first filmed Mr. Ta Fu-Yuen and his colleagues back in 1995, I had no idea this initiative could achieve such dramatic results. The effort that people put into converting their slopes into terraces has resulted in a marked increase in agricultural productivity. The higher yields are directly related to the return of natural vegetation in the surrounding ecological land. Now when it rains, the water no longer runs straight off the slopes. Trapped by the vegetation, it sinks into the ground, where it is retained in the soil, taking weeks and months to gently seep down and irrigate the fields and terraces below. Restoration has occurred over an area of 35,000 square kilometers. The impact of such an enormous addition of vegetation goes far beyond the plateau itself. There's been a significant reduction in the soil rushing down into the Yellow River. As I've been traveling around the Loess Plateau, I've seen extensive changes. The vegetation cover on the hillsides, on the tops of the hills, and down in the valley, everything has changed. It's changed the lives of the people. And in fact, the people themselves have done this because they were the ones who changed their behaviors, terraced the fields, improved the soils, learned to protect the marginal areas.
This was really a moment that was probably life-changing for me. Suddenly, I had the understanding that you can do dramatic change on big scale within 10, 15 years. So the Loess Plateau is an area of Belgium in China that was heavily degraded. It was previously the cradle of Chinese civilization, so it was a very fertile land. But then agriculture and agricultural practices of people have degraded the landscape, and it was now a desert. People there were living in destitute conditions. They were very, very poor, and the Chinese government then has decided, okay, either we have to move people away from this area, or we have to do dramatic change. But the people needed to be changed how they live in the landscape, and the Chinese government, together with the World Bank and Chinese and international scientists, they developed a plan to transform this area from a desert into a completely restored landscape. And within 20 years, they have lifted 2.5 million people out of poverty that can now live there in sustainable lifestyles, can feed themselves, can send their kids to university. So it's a dramatic change. And I was saying, wow, I never would have expected that you can transform this arid landscape that you see to the left within a decade into a revived living agricultural ecosystem. I find this really mind-blowing. And it's exactly what John DeLue was saying. He was a journalist at the time when the Chinese government and the World Bank asked him to document this change. And when he has documented this change, over the time, it has changed himself as well. He's saying this, and he was saying, look, if you look at this, we see that we can restore ecosystems on massive scales. This is possible, and we have all the tools to do so. So knowing this is now our responsibility to apply this. We know we can do this. Now we need to do this intentionally. So, and this is where he started his scientific career as an ecologist, to look into this and going on to document this. And then John was asking himself, okay, how can we involve people in doing this? And one idea he was saying, okay, everyone loves camping, so let's do ecosystem restoration in camps to engage people across the world and get them in touch with this really important process. And this ecosystem restoration camps are now a global organization with 50 camps around the world where people go to learn how to do this and go back in their communities and be the change. And I find this really empowering because it tells us, okay, it's an intentional decision of us how we want to behave. Do we want to continue as we do, or do we want to imply a positive change? Yeah. Do we want to help the regeneration? And I guess it's a question you can easily answer, or at least I was being able to answer. And I'm taking part on an ecosystem restoration design course right now, just to learn more about this. And I meet a fantastic community across the world of people acting on regeneration. And if you look around, there are millions of people around the world already doing this really important work. I find this extremely uplifting and empowering. So this is my personal story, and this is why I'm so driven by sustainability and the relationship to my scientific career and learning. And I hope giving you this impression is giving you a little bit a different take on where you can journey along and make your own decisions how do you want to progress. So thank you very much. This was the end of episode 4. Hope to see you soon in episode 5.